I'm Tom McMillan. Join me as I interview professional sports people on their journeys making it pro. I'm on a mission to explore the mental strength and dedication required to make it in professional sport. If you like what I'm doing, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Hope you enjoy the episode. Peter, welcome. Thanks for your time and welcome to Making It Pro. As I've explained to you in the background, basically what I want to do is run through a series of questions and just get a sort of a feeling for how your career developed and got you through into playing professional football at the level you played at. All
That's
right.
no worries. Back on, Tom.
Right. So what I'll do, I'll start off really where it started, and where it started for you in your early memories of football. So, at what age and what's probably the earliest message, our earliest memory that you can recall kicking a ball?
It would have been, I was 6 years old. I was born and bred in Pollock, and my uncle started a Hillwood Boys Club in 1966, which are still running to this day. So it's a big boys club in the south side of Glasgow. And I remember it was a game, and I was 6, and I went down just to watch, and the opposition team from Hillwood had no players. Sorry, were short a player.
Yeah.
So I went on and I played right back, a 6-year-old. I remember clear as day, 1-2-1, and I scored for right back, believe it or not, as a 6-year-old. And it was 11 aside back in the day.
Yeah.
So that's my first sort of recollection on the road of my football career. But it started off at Hillwood, where I spent a fair amount of time there playing with all my pals.
Brilliant. And it's even like today, looking back, is that when you talk about football, and obviously, you're looking at youth football, does that moment still stick in your mind clearly?
Oh, it's clear as day, because everybody who I ended up going to play with, and the managers at the time, who were my dad's friends and my uncles, and they always still speak about to this day. Remember your first game, and it wasn't even for Hillwood, it was for the opposition. You scored a toe poke and you scored against us. Then I went to Hillwood the following Tuesday.
Brilliant.
And started there.
And how long were you there after that?
I was there for 6 until I'd probably say 13, because and that was the times where it was boys clubs where you're challenging for the Summer Cup and the SYCA League. You're the top league, where you win things. Everything was winners and losers, and that was it. We were right into the nitty-gritty, and it was 11 aside, like I says.
Yeah. See, obviously that's been a massive change to modern day football now for young players, and I think obviously, when you look at the likes, I look at my own boy having come through playing 7-a-sides, and then I know that in the UK they've even went to for 7s to 9s to 11s, because even when he went for 7s to 11s, I've seen a massive change. But I'm sort of roughly the same age as you, so I remember as well when you think when we were Wayne's playing with a mitre 5, 11-a-side, aye, in a winter's day,
Aye.
scaled to a 5, that, but it's obviously for the development of players and trying to play the modern style of football, it's obviously better now. I think it's shortened it, but would you agree with that? Do you think nowadays that the script is better for young players?
I think it's better as in touch wise, because you get a lot more in the ball.
Yeah.
But you think, throw it back, Tom, to when we were young, the first thing we learnt was a position.
Yeah.
A throw in a position.
Aye.
But now kids are playing fun 4s, 5-a-sides.
Yeah.
And it isn't probably till you get into 7-a-sides where you're actually learning, you're a defender, you're a midfielder, you're a lone striker, because it's like the 2-3-1 formation with the goalie.
Yeah.
One thing we knew back then was you'd probably say a position, a throw, and a couple of years later be offside.
Aye, that's right. I mean, that's an interesting point, because one of the things I managed an under-7s, under-8s team in the UK before we moved abroad, but one of the things I used to do at that time, in actual fact, and I know that the FA promoted it in England at that particular time, was to rotate players so that you didn't pigeonhole them. But at the same time, you know, when I look at even like here, when I look at kids playing under 13s, under 14s here, you mentioned the throw-in. You've never seen as many foul throw-ins in
So
your life and accepted in Spanish football, because I don't think they've ever really been taught how to do them properly.
well, it's the same in the academy structure in Scotland. The amount of foul throws, it's unbelievable, and they don't get given because it's just
That's
the norm
right.
now.
Well,
The
that's the same here. They don't
yeah.
pull them through. They just crack on with it. And so you went into that team at that age, and that was you right the way through. And you mentioned that your uncle was obviously involved and friends of your family. Would you reckon he was a significant influence himself? Like your own family, were they an influence on you playing football even at that age?
Aye, like I said, my mum's 6 brothers, so they were all affiliated to the club.
Yeah.
My uncle Willie Smith started it, and my dad was a coach with my team.
Yeah.
But they had a big say in it because my uncle was a coach, my dad was a committee member in the team, and my dad's mate, who two of them are no longer with us, was a committee member.
Yeah.
So they were all together.
Yeah.
But my uncle Davy, who was Davy Smith, had the say in picking the team and things like that. He was the organiser, whereas the other two were just sort of helping out, putting the nets up before games, strips, washing, collecting strips in, things like that.
And did you I mean, obviously that was at a young age, but did you feel any additional pressure as a result of that? Or did you feel more like you were mucking in because it was your own family?
No, there was no much. I didn't feel much pressure. As a boy, they made it, relaxed. But what I can say, we had a very, very good team, Tam.
Yeah, yeah.
We won loads of leagues, Scottish Cups, and things like that. Which a lot of kids don't do that at that age.
Yeah.
So it was probably the norm for us, to go a year, 2 year unbeaten. Generally, without a word of a lie.
Yeah.
A lot of the boys went and turned pro and played at a decent level. But then the final year, we sort of, some of the boys went to, a couple of boys went to Celtic, a couple went to Rangers, St Johnstone, and then the team sort of failed.
Starts to break up.
Then they which is something that you've not been used to.
Yeah. That's a hard, I mean, obviously, because even now when I see like academy football in the UK, and it is actually quite different in Spain, because they leave the kids longer in a club. And even when they start to get drawn, I mean, they actually wait to they're between 14, 15, 16. So they leave the kids to fully develop. But it's a really good point you've made that it's not just the kids develop individually, but they stay in that unit with the other players and kids have grown up with playing football, and they stay actually in an environment where they're at ease, and you know what I mean, they're comfortable playing their football and they're used to having success. I think sometimes, obviously, when you see some of the documentaries that are on the minute and that they're looking into academies and you see individuals struggling, but when you've got that network, which is again why I was asking about your family, because that's, for like I was the same as you, Peter. When you've got family around about you who actually really care and the enthusiasm's there, that's one thing. But obviously, if you're a kid that's maybe in an environment where the family aren't football minded, or even if they are, but there's a kind of strong pressure, it can add a different type of mentality to a young player trying to come through. But there's nothing better than going on the partner Saturday and you look around, you trust the players that's run about you, and you've known them for 2 and 3 and 4 years, because that's trust long term. That's good. And was that like at 12 to 13 it started to break up?
I'd probably say 13 to 14 because half of the team went and joined like St Johnstone. So a lot of the boys were training at St Johnstone, Celtic and Rangers. I was at Rangers. A few of the boys Celtic, like John Paul McGovern at Celtic. So what happened was St Johnstone offered to take over the team. So just move the team from Hillwood to St Johnstone, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. I ended up going to Rangers Boys Club, who were a lesser team than my Hillwood team at the time, as I was saying. And I didn't like it. After like 6 weeks, we were only getting beaten, things like that. And I said, I want to go to St Johnstone. I want to go to Hillwood, but Johnstone.
Yeah.
And I ended up going back. To St Johnstone. Just, I don't know if it was a comfort thing or a thing that where I knew a better team and I wanted to win and wanted to play in a winning team. I'm unsure about that. but the comfort thing would have been there because my uncle was still the manager of St Johnstone, not
Yeah.
now Hillwood. So
Yeah. And see that again, that's another really good point made. Like, because obviously you see in the modern day where, you know, for certainly a lot of the younger ages of football, now they're saying, oh, well, it's not that important if you win, and don't feel, you know, a defeatist if you've lost. But in actual fact, that struck you at a young age, the importance of winning.
yeah,
Do you think it's a healthy thing then?
I do because when you get to when I was coaching in the academy at Rangers, and I think 5 years I was there, and I think it's okay. It's a lot about development, and I totally agree. It's about development and individual development collectively. A team don't make it; it's individuals. But when you get to 16, and if a kid for 12, 13, 14, 15 is told, it's all right, you know, you lost 3-0 today, but tell you what, you played really well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work when you get to 16, Tom. It's an environment where you're paying for your mortgage, you know, extra money, contract, your livelihood. As soon as you become a full-time football player, there's a demand on you to win.
Yeah.
And some of the kids nowadays don't get that. They don't understand.
There's no preparation for that day coming. Aye. Whereas if you're getting that built in 3-4 years before, the shock to the system doesn't come. That's a really, really good point, actually. Because again, I think, like, obviously, as I've said, a lot of the point behind what we're doing here, and getting your insight into how you felt, because I think a lot of the issue is that when you see even some of the opinions that are laid out in football, and I see it obviously in different countries, and being here in Spain and how I've seen it in Scotland and how I've seen it in England, my own lad was playing there. A lot of the times the opinions are being given, even commentary in football a day, by people who never played at the level of the people they're judging. You know, whereas I think that's a really fair point. You know, I know that a lot of folk have got varying opinions on whether it's important to understand winning and losing at a young age, but I think the key thing is to make it professionally. The mental preparation for that day coming when somebody's saying, well, it does matter. You can't walk off the park and say it's all right, you can beat 3-0, because there's a manager's job at stake, and there's your position at stake, and the importance of the team at stake.
So that's a
good point.
Yeah, you know, but again, I'll reiterate that I'm not saying it's the be all and end all, 12, 13. Yeah. I think when you get to 14, 15, it's all friendlies.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Because you're playing in Club Academy Scotland, it's friendly. You know, you got your best v best game, maybe against a Man U or Chelsea or whatever. Yeah. Then back to friendly. The same, you're winning with no end product at the end of it.
There's no measurement tool.
No, exactly. But
absolutely.
Your measurement's meant to come against the best v best, against your Chelseas and things. But even at that, the age bracket is different, because it's yearly, and the other thing is term to term.
That's right. And even if you're being measured in that, it's a one-off game. You know, there's no end of the season reward or failure.
No, that's how when you go abroad to tournaments as well now. You know, you go to a tournament, you play for 18th playoff, and you get a trophy.
Aye.
It's, you know, and it's like it's friendship games. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow, play friendship games.
How did you find when you went into Rangers Academy and then obviously St Johnstone, going through these stages of your early, you know, obviously, if you take the you know, you'd been in a team that was a successful team, but was there a kind of mental change, even though obviously, especially when you went to St Johnstone, it was still your uncle and it was still a familiarity with players, but did you feel a step up, like, I'm at a professional club now? Did you feel a shift in how you felt playing in that team, or did it feel just like continuation with a different jersey on?
No, it was different, because what happened, we would train 3 times a week with Rangers.
Yeah. And
we only played games in the school holidays.
Yeah.
Because you still play, because every weekend you played with your boys' club.
Yeah.
You train with your boys' club through the week and play and you get a game this Saturday or Sunday. Rangers, you train 3 times a week and get nothing. But then the holidays, you go away for a week or whatever. But for early days at Rangers back then, it was, you know, it was drilled into you to win. We're going to this tournament in England to win. It's not acceptable as Rangers Football Club to finish second.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was back then. And even till I went full time, it was sick. So you sort of know the expectations as you get through the years. And when you get, it should just be the norm. Where you're at Rangers Football Club, winning's the only thing that matters. You find a way to win, if it's bad or ugly, or as in if you don't play well, but you still find a way to win. That's brilliant.
And I think that's, like, obviously, especially in Scotland, when you look at all the years, and even recently looking at the success of the Scottish national team, it was a great performance against Ukraine. The game against Ireland was a bit uglier, but when all said and done, it was getting the 3 points. The 3 points were what was needed, and I think, again, getting back to that young stage, that understanding collectively as a team that you're part of something that needs to know what success looks like, and that's got to be achieved at all costs, which is important. And as you were coming through, then did you, was there a stage there, Pierre, where you felt like I've got a wee bit extra? Did you feel like you had it? Did you start to establish in your own mind, I can make it as a professional footballer?
I think early, it was a Scottish schoolboy selection, sort of under 15, sort of the best in Scotland, obviously, and it's on Sky, if you remember the Victory Shield. It was on Sky, so I played up front in that, and that's the sort of, you're marketing yourself on TV really for other clubs who, and after that, but I'd already committed S4 to Rangers. I sort of knew that I was one of the best strikers at that age, going about in Scotland, and I had clubs in England want me as well. So you sort of knew then, without being big time about it. I was never big time about it. It was just the way it was.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, because we are similar age, I remember a lot of stages of your career, like, again, without sounding patronising, I think when I think of you, I think a lot of, obviously, I've the luxury of I knew Coisty and knew him all the years we playing fives and things like that. And with yourself, you were always popular within Scottish football. You've always been well liked in Scottish football, and it's because of your nature. That I think that would be, without blowing smoke up your ass, I think that's a fair comment. But obviously, at the same time, you know what it's like. We're brought up where you've not to have arrogance and you've not to be sort of up your own backside. But at the same time, you hear people getting drilled into them. You've got to have self-belief, and you're not going to make it if you can't turn that belief into activity when you go in the park. Like, did you feel, see, even with the likes of your mates at school and those around you and your own family, when it started to get to the crucial stages where I think I could make it, did people's attitude towards you change, or was the support there, or did people get jealous, or did you feel anything yourself as a young fella?
Nothing. I was very fortunate. I had massive support from my family, my pals as well. Like, I was, again, like I said, I brought up in Pollock. I was a scheme boy, ran about the parks and things like that. But one thing I never did, drink or take drugs where everybody else was. And what happened was the older boys who ran about, who knew my dad and that, they would never have let me, because they knew there'd be opportunity. They would have battered me. They generally would have battered me. And that was the sort of thing I had. I was very fortunate, because a lot of kids never had that, and were dragged up when they had probably essentially the same ability, but you just never had to be dragged over the line a wee bit, to get there.
It's fantastic as well when you've got, obviously, and again, being Scottish, like, I know a lot of the schemes or housing estates for ourselves where we grew up playing, and people who grew up with, and having that support and that network of mates who may well have themselves been drinking but wouldn't allow you to drink because you had a chance to take a step where maybe others didn't, which is absolutely brilliant. And then see, as that started to progress, when you like breaking through, as you say, into Scottish schoolboys, and you were still at Rangers at that point, could you see, right, these are the stages, like, obviously, for coaches within Rangers or coaches within the Scottish setup, did you feel quite clear in your mind what sort of decisions you were need to make? Could you see a pathway through, or were you just giving it your all every week and hoping that the break would come?
No, every week I was just giving it my all. Again, that was sort of drummed into me from probably Rangers, but also that with my boys' club team that I wanted to win every week.
Yeah.
And that just sort of, as soon as you went 16, like I said, the expectations were there. And I think, it was John Brown and John McGregor who I had. And the first thing they wanted was just run and work hard. That was it. Just give it your all, and things will fall into place. Even if you're having a bad game, they just want you to work hard and give it your all. So you can't come off a pitch you never tried. And I always sort of, even all the way through my career, that was the first thing. It's a given for me. And any football player should be, you're blessed enough to be where you are. Give it your all, don't have any regrets.
And then when you came through, obviously at that stage, and then coming through to then going to St Johnstone and sort of making headway into making your professional debut, like, was there any times where there was challenges, be it injuries or maybe with coaches or anything like that, where you felt this door's half shutting on me? What do I do next? Or, did you have challenges to overcome yourself? It obviously wasn't all plain sailing. Like, how did you cope?
I had a lot of injuries through my career, and they started fairly young. I think I had my first operation just before my 16th birthday on my right knee. And through the years, I had like Rangers, I had ankle surgery, knee surgery, loads of sort of injuries, which is part and parcel of the game. And I was fairly unlucky getting through my career, having quite a lot. I missed a big chunk of my career through injury. But then again, I played till I was 6 months shy of my 40th birthday. So having which maybe made you miss 2 or 3 seasons early in your career, maybe prolonged it. You never know that. But no, I was very unfortunate with injury.
How did you feel? I mean, see the different stages and at different ages when that happened, Peter. Can you remember again going back to the joy of scoring a goal at 6-year-old? Like, can you remember the kind of, not the physical pain, but obviously for any player being out and sitting watching football, you should be a party or playing in. Like, during the times, was there any doubts or did any negativity enter your head, or were you mentally strong enough to say, no, I'm coming, I'll get back for this?
I think the first, any injury, you get it assessed, and then as soon as you know how long you're going to be out for, time-wise, the first third day is mind-numbing. But I was quite strong mentally, and I knew, and the more injuries I had, I get used to it. The better I get used to it. I just doing stages. So the first third was not happening. Second third, you're starting to see a bit of light. You're cycling, you're jogging. You're in the final third, you're back running on the pitch. So each ages you would be a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And I always try and get in thirds, get the first third out of the way. Then again, the next bit, then the final bit is you're seeing the light. And that's the way I tend to deal with it.
That's brilliant advice, actually. That's great advice, because obviously, especially young players, when they've not had an injury, I mean, like you made that many really good points there, but obviously you get used to it and get used to how to deal with it mentally. But again, these are all the sort of things that, players, especially, a player maybe gets to 21, 22 and they've had a really good run and they've broken into the first team and they're in and they get an injury and all of a sudden the world comes crashing down, so that's a really, really good way to look at it, because as you said right at the start of that, it's inevitable if you're lucky enough to have a 20-year, 25-year career, that you're going to get an injury at some stage. That's the nature of the game. So, and as you came through and then started to sort of make that progress into the stage where you were, building up to make your first team debut, did you feel, again, like the sort of angle I'm getting at is like some of the pressures that go into young players and the expectations, not just for their managers or for the club, but for family. And, I know myself, a lot of boys I grew up with, and even nowadays, when I see some young players that are breaking through at clubs, and I've watched it in some of the documentaries, I don't know if you've watched the Crystal Palace one, you can see that actually a whole family's financial dependence could be on the shoulders of a 14-year-old boy, you know. Like, did you have any outside pressures when you were coming through with the opportunity to try and break through as a pro, or was your focus solely on just going to training and kicking a ball?
That was it. Training, kicking a ball. I think the biggest bit of pressure I felt would be when I was 20, when St Johnstone bought me for Rangers.
Yeah.
And
Sandy
I was only
Clark.
Sandy, and I played first team football. I had a good reserve career, but at 20, but the expectations, it was a fairly big fee back then, 125 grand.
Massive.
You know, and for an untried kid. So I felt a wee bit of pressure on. But that truthfully quickly went away. As soon as you get your first goal, it sort of just went away.
You scored, am I right in saying, did you know score in your debut? I mean, I know Sandy really well, actually. I've not seen him for years, but did you know score in your debut with St Johnstone?
The week after,
right,
against Livy. My second start, I scored against Livy. That was my second game in. So,
and that was St Johnstone was it was obviously a great club for you, and having been there when you were young, but professionally to come through and obviously breaking into the first team and then getting an opportunity to go and make that's where you probably made a name for yourself. Is that fair to say St Johnstone? That's where it really took off.
10 years I spent there, and that's where I played my first team football for the first time. And I was grateful for Sandy taking a chance on a young boy at the time, which was good. And you mentioned Sandy. Sandy was a brilliant help. He was only there 7 weeks, I think, and Sandy got sacked. But in these 7 weeks, he knew I was a young boy. He knew I was potential. And for the 7 weeks, he was absolutely brilliant. We were just encouraging me, don't worry about anything, just keep doing the things. That's why we bought you, blah, blah, blah. And it was...
How did again, obviously, and Sandy was successful at Hearts, and you look at like I thought Sandy was he was a great figurehead in Scottish football anyway, but also he was a really decent, he like that doesn't surprise me, you saying that about him, knowing him and knowing how the warmth that would be in him and the sincerity for him to actually reassure you so that you're getting off to the right foot at that stage of your career. When that happened, given that Sandy had bought you and then he gets sacked and a new manager come in, how did that leave did that put pressure on you? Did you feel any difference with that change?
I think every day it's a clean slate for every day, even though it was 7 weeks later, I think 9 weeks later, a new manager came in after me just signing. It's a clean slate, 9 weeks in, but I'd been enjoying it. I've been scoring because Sandy got the sack, and on Tuesday we played Clyde in the Cup at Broadwood. Scored 2, we won 2-0, 2 penalties I scored. And then Saturday, Billy Kirkwood took the team again. We played Motherwell, lost 3-2, and I scored 1 again. So then Billy Stark came in. So Billy Kirkwood became the number 2 at the time. So I think Kirky had my ear for with Starkey as well. Because Kirky had used to go and work experience at Rangers. Kirky was a reserve coach, wasn't he? As well. So before I even went.
And again, obviously the influence of coaches is really important. You hear of so many players, even at the highest level, getting into clubs and a manager changes and straight away, you've seen it the weekend there. Obviously, Stephen Gerrard gets sacked, and the first big casualty of that was John McGinn. Not only is he the captain, but he's not even playing. And obviously it's not just, especially nowadays, it's highlighted. It's in social media. It's everywhere that you're not playing this Saturday. So obviously that helps, that continuity, and that you feel yourself. Obviously, it's somebody that says, even as an interim coach, they know you, they understand you, they've got belief in you, so you can carry that. But again, obviously, you were able to handle that well, and I suppose the pressure in a lot of ways never came with, because each one clicked and stepped into. Obviously, even Billy Stark came in, as you say, Kirky's got you in mind, and so you went through. But also, to be fair, at the same time, Pierre, you're scoring goals. It's not an accident either. You're scoring goals week in, week out. And even like through the, sort of going from youth football you go through, one of the things that's really struck through when I've interviewed people in the past, and again, you've been on it about how many boys went to Celtic, some went to Rangers, some went to St Johnstone. The nucleus of that team, was there other players that came through to make it professionally? Or in the case of the for 12 or 13, the group of players you were playing with, were you the only one that made it as a full-time pro, or was there other players for that group made it as well?
No, there was the right few. Quite a lot went full time.
Yeah.
A lot went S form.
Yeah.
To be fair, there was me, John Paul McGovern, who went to Celtic F Wednesday. There was John Hamill, Stevie Hamill's brother.
Yeah.
Horrible manager. John went Thistle. My cousin Brian, the manager's boy, went Thistle full. I think Martin Laughlin went Thistle full time. Stuart Orr went St Johnstone full time. So that's 7.
Aye.
I think, and which is Scott Shearer, the goalie, he went Albion Rovers. Then Coventry City bought him for $100,000, I think, and he went to Coventry. Then did the Wycombe and Southend. He did a good career. So you're looking at 8 for a team. Then it was only 14 players in the squad.
One of the things that has really struck me is because the whole angle that I'm looking at, and looking at a lot of the young players that are obviously not making it, like we discussed at the start, the statistics for kids that are going through that development stage for Academy Pro into full-time pro, the percentages obviously through world football, but obviously in the professional game at this time in the UK, it's between 1% and 3%. And yet you look at the nucleus of that team you were part of, and actually 70% of them have come through to go into professional football. And what's really ironic is, even in interviews I've done in the past, the other players I've spoken to, Peter, it's been between 6 and 7 players have actually come through. And so when you look at the nucleus of the team that you were part of, and the nucleus of the mentality, and it really strikes me, you said at the start about winning, because I think that win mentality, when it's been bred into players, the determination comes for that. There's something to be determined about, rather than just selling, just to say, so through the stages of your career and then getting into obviously becoming a professional player, was there any particular manager or a coach that had a real influence that sticks out in your mind? Any one individual or a couple of individuals that really impacted your career?
There was my old man. My old man was probably I wouldn't have been a football player if it was for my dad. To be honest, coming in for work, getting out at 7 in the morning, coming in at 4:30. I had to be Ibrox Astroturf outside the stadium for 5 o'clock. He would phone me when he was leaving the workshop. I'm doing in 10 minutes. Took the horn and I jump out. He'd know if he's dinner or nothing. Go down there, back up the road at 8:30, have his dinner, fall asleep on the couch. I was 3 times a week. So him was probably my biggest help. But also then when I went in full time, I didn't realise this to start with, because I thought he hated me, but he didn't. It was John Brown, Bomber, because he was so hard on us. But he was hard on us for a reason. Him and John McGregor, and I always remember saying he kept going on and on. The standards he demanded were so high, which was a good thing. But you don't realise that this 17-year-old boy, you think, oh, he's on my case again. And it wasn't until I was 19 or something, he said to me, he said, you shouldn't be worrying when I'm shouting at you. He says, because what you should be worrying is when I stop shouting at you, because then I don't give a fuck about you. And that was it. And I didn't realise that until maybe I went to Dundee, because he became a manager again at 33 when I went to Dundee. He signed me for Dundee, and he was different, but I had so much respect for him, because he drilled the basics into me with the hard work and, the winning matters and all that stuff.
What age were you then, Peter, when you first came into contact with? I mean, again, I don't know him personally, but funnily enough, a lot of my mates that are actually boys that have been in about Celtic are really close with him. And they've all to say, I mean, obviously, he's like some of the boys say, oh, he's mental and he's some laughing at. But again, you mentioned there that's two like absolute winners in the game, and that influence that they've impacted. What age were you when you first, when you first come into contact with the likes of Bomber and John McGregor in the game?
I'd be 14 when I went in for work experience. That would be the first time, because the school holidays, you would go in there as they called it work experience, but it was for the school holidays, and you train with the under 18s and the resis.
Yeah.
Then I went in a year early. I left school a year early and went in after my exams and went in at 15. And that was when he became my coach full time.
And how long were you there?
I was there with Bomber from 15 to 20 until I left. Then I went back with him when I signed for Dundee and I was 33. And we actually won the league, the Scottish Championship that year. Bomber left in February, but due to Dundee pulling a cut of speedy thing, I think Paul Hartley came in. But Bomber assembled the team, all the boys loved Bomber. Yeah. It was actually night and day from the coach I had as a 16-year-old. He was a wee bit more laid back, and he's like, I don't shout as much anymore. I don't know if that's because we were men then.
And probably he'd matured as well on how to handle
he would have matured time, definitely. But I think also the fact that we'd matured, and the work ethic that he was trying to install into a 16-year-old, maybe candidate a 24-year-old, 25 there. But then
that's right. It's already when you get to that stage as a professional, it's already there, really. And if it's no there, you're no there. So that's already in you at that stage. And so, see, when you look at the game, the day, Peter, and those key moments that the likes of that, people influenced you at that stage where they were maybe hard on you as a young player, and then obviously you see the maturity in both ends, and also the expectations different. It's not an expectation you're trying to make; it's an expectation. What's required going on a Saturday, and you were a player that you knew how to score goals, and you knew how to score a variety of goals. And somebody like him you obviously knew and could trust that was in you. But do you think there's still characters like that in the game today that are still influence young players' careers?
Aye, but I don't think in that manner. And to be honest, I was brought up halfway through old school, new school.
Yeah.
If you get, and I think there's got to be a blend there. I think one thing, you've got to be told the truth.
Yeah.
And no matter what way it is, it's not screaming and shouting, bawling, swearing. It's told the truth in a stern way if you're not performing or whatever.
Yeah.
No give the fluff.
Yeah.
Whereas the new people tend to, like I'm saying, you've never made a bad. It's all right if you make a bad pass.
Aye.
It's not really. You need the standards need to be high.
Yeah.
But there's a way. It's hard to try and find that happy medium.
Yeah.
To the snowflake generation. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. When you look at the top coaches today, likes of, obviously it's easy to mention likes of Guardiola, but you can see how animated he is at the side of the pitch. I mentioned to the wee fella Campes who worked with him, but I remember he said that when he came into Barcelona, he said to him, Pep, what are you going to do with these players? But you're talking about players like Messi and things like that he had in the group. And he said, I don't know, I'm not sure. But one thing's for sure, they're going to run, and they're all going to run. What he meant was, I don't care what level of star it is, the expectations are going to be the same. And they demands, I think, especially now, because the players are athletes much more than they've ever been.
Yeah, more now, yeah.
And so the expectations are higher. But obviously, as you say, the manner in which the information shared and how the demands are put upon players is changed, and in some cases, unfortunately, maybe softened too much.
I'll agree with that. I think if you get you are a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, and you're not getting taught the real aspects of life when you hit 16 early, just wee bits of it.
Yeah.
Then that's a bigger shock when you get 16s. Like we get back to the start of the conversation.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be told the truth. If you're not performing, you're out of the team. You learn the wee bits to lead you up to professional environment, first team football. Not even no first team football, but in a professional working environment where it's your job.
Absolutely.
If you call it that.
Aye, and that's actually the reality. You know, if that whole academy stage and development into becoming a professional is actually it's, you know, you look at the old apprenticeship systems, but what you're doing, it doesn't matter whether you're going to be a plumber or a joiner or a professional football player. That period of time is preparing you for the day you're walking out there on your own. You know, I've linked that a lot of times to learning to drive. You know, I passed my driving test and I started learning to drive when I went out in a car myself. I didn't have anybody to ask. I didn't have anybody to put their feet in the breaker. All of a sudden, you're in charge and all bets are on you. You know what I mean? And obviously, the fitness is a completely different thing. You're doing it in front of a stadium, and you're doing it in front of a lot of people, and you're at a lot of different pressures. But it's great that obviously, given the support mechanisms you had, and it's brilliant, obviously, listening to you talk about the influence your dad had and being able to have that support there, and also somebody who was prepared to make the commitments to ensure you were able to make yours. You know, 14, 15, 16, you can't drive a car. It's not always easy to get public transport to get you where you need to be in time when you're coming out of school, you know, and that's fantastic. Obviously, that support was there. And now, as you look at the modern game, and obviously you're still involved in the game, how do you feel, you know, do you think players are getting mentally prepared well for careers ahead of them, or do you feel that there's maybe support now required? You know, obviously things like social media have got a different influence on young players and how they're handling different situations and expectations. But do you, you know, is there anything you can look at as a seasoned professional and think, I think maybe kids could benefit for that, or it would be something that you could see that would maybe be introduced that could help them today, having reflected in your own career?
It sort of is. They are doing it sort of now, is maybe the education side, where you get a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
But again, some players don't make enough money to no work.
Yeah.
So you need to go to a second income, but a job for when you finish retiring from football. And also, I don't think there's enough things for when you actually do retire from being a full-time football player at the age of 35 or whatever. You know, because 15 to 30, I was 15 to 39.
Yeah.
And I'd no qualifications. I left school, I says to you, a year early. I'm fortunate enough to play full time for 20 years, then part time for the last 4.
Yeah.
But then I had to go and find something. I went into a children's home to work.
Yeah.
But I can genuinely see how people turn to alcoholism, drugs, gambling, you know, and suicidal thoughts, mental health.
Yeah.
Because the structure's totally gone, and all they know is a structure for Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, they've known day in, day out, their days off. It's all structured. Christmas Eve, you sometimes in hotels. Christmas Day, you're training. That all goes out the window. Nothing to follow, or no pattern. And I don't think there's enough help in that. I don't know how you would actually come about helping players, but I think that's one thing.
That's a brilliant point you've made, because see, when you look at it, I do a totally separate thing, Peter. You maybe seen I do a lot of work with the homeless. See the amount of people that have come out of the army and ended up homeless, because what's happened is they've got to the end of such a structured life, and actually so many of the things that a lot of even families really see, like maybe yourself, and you look at couples or families as a whole. Obviously, a lot of the players I've known over the years, that some of the boys have never booked a holiday. They've never, do you know what I mean? They've never actually physically been responsible for that. The club would deal with their passport. That, you know, if you were fortunate enough to play at European level, all that's all taken care of. All you're actually doing is going and playing football, and all of a sudden that stops. And all the other sort of instruments in life that make up everybody else's daily existence, they've not made up yours. And as you say, that's like half your life.
As you've still got half your life to live.
That's right.
If you're in a job, if you're a plumber, you work to 60, is it 70 now or 65?
67.
67, you're working to the end, then you think about retirement. But you retire, I don't know if it's still, I think you can still get one of your pensions at 35.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a football player. But even at that, you could still get a 45 year hopefully living.
That's right. The rest of your life's a long time ahead, isn't it? There's more time ahead than there's been.
Exactly.
Aye.
Exactly.
Aye, no, that's a good point.
It'd be interesting how they can maybe help with that, but
because I think as well, where a lot of young players look at the game now, and you look at players on 100 and 200 and 300 grand a week, but that is that elite level. The majority of players, you know, there's people in normal everyday jobs earning a couple of grand a week. It's not enough, unfortunately, to last you for the rest of your life. So if at the time it's good wages, but by the time you start taking in a wife and kids and mortgages and cars and all the rest of it, all of a sudden that money's getting spent as quick as it's being earned.
It's so true, and even the ones who are on 50 grand a week, 100 grand a week, their lifestyle goes up.
Absolutely.
And when you go earning that sort of money, they still think they can go and buy the brand new Lambo and this and that. Right. Potentially investments are good enough, but how many top bowlers go bankrupt?
That's right.
Even the 50 Premiership players.
5 years. 5 years for finishing a career, there's every possibility that the majority of players are facing a kind of state of deprivation, in the sense that when you've been used to living in a detached house and living in a nicer area and driving a newer car, and all of a sudden that just, as you say, because the problem is when that contract ends, it ends.
Yeah, it's
just cut dead, and I think where unfortunately, you look at every type of profession. Everybody, even in any other kind of profession, you get faded out as you get older. But when your contract comes to an end, it is a short-term contract. It's finished. And just finally, so when you reflect on your time coming through as a young player into making as a professional player, and crucially in the years, is there anything that you would suggest, or anything you would pass on to a young player coming through that stage of academy football, trying to make it as a full-time pro? Is there anything you could say to them that would you think would benefit?
I would say, first and foremost, work hard. That's the first thing you should do. You earn the right to goals, you earn the right to performing well. When the first thing you do, the basics, is working hard. Get education. If you are lucky enough to get full-time at 16, definitely go invest some of your time rather than going to Nando's with the boys and playing FIFA. Get education, because a lot of kids now could maybe get right into an education, open uni or whatever, or if it's a college, and do that, because like I said, because it's a short career, and that's one. Don't have any regrets.
Aye, perfect.
Brilliant. Don't have any.
Pierre, it's been an absolute joy speaking to you, and I really appreciate your time. Thanks for giving it. And what I'll do.
It was so long, mate. I apologise.
No, but listen, honestly, so many things you've covered. It's been so positive looking at your career, and obviously, the bits I've known you, you can see positivity in what kind of human being you're. But it's a great example for young players, because there's so many ups and downs in a career. But obviously, yours travelled such a positive sort of route, and yet people would forget, as you said, how many injuries you had to cope with through your career, and you never once let any of them pull you down. It was fantastic. Thanks for watching the latest episode of Making It Pro. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Look forward to sharing the next episode soon.